Welcome to the Explainer. I am so incredibly pumped you're joining us today because we are unpacking what is, hands down, the most dramatic power shift we've seen in the 2026 enterprise AI landscape. You know how ridiculously fast this space moves, right? Well, the data we're looking at today completely tears up the old playbook on who's actually winning the AI war inside the world's biggest companies. We are going to break down exactly what just happened, why the legacy heavyweights are suddenly stumbling, and how the entire definition of AI dominance has fundamentally flipped. All right, let's just get right to it. 27%. That is the single absolute shocker of a number we need to talk about. That figure is OpenAI's share of enterprise large language model API spending in the first quarter of 2026. Now, you might be wondering, why is that an earthquake? Well, because just 3 years ago, back in 2023, OpenAI controlled a massive 50% of this exact same market. They were the undisputed kings of the enterprise. So hitting 27%, that is a stunning, precipitous drop for the company that literally kickstarted the whole generative AI revolution. The breakdown here is just wild. While OpenAI basically got cut in half, dropping from 50 down to 27%, Anthropic just absolutely exploded. They went from practically a rounding error, less than 5% in 2023, to a commanding 40% market share today. They basically inhaled all of OpenAI's lost ground. Meanwhile, Google has been kind of just hovering steadily around 15%, and folks like Mistral and Cohere are splitting the remaining 18%. So the crown in enterprise AI has completely changed hands, and right now, it is 100% Anthropic's to lose.
Part 1. Why OpenAI lost ground.
So how exactly does a giant stumble so fast? How do you bleed half your market share in 36 months when your brand is a household name? To really understand the drop, we've got to look at a massive fork in the road regarding strategy. It boils down to building for everyday consumers versus building for mission-critical corporate environments. See, OpenAI's product strategy has basically been consumer-first since the second ChatGPT dropped. To them, the enterprise felt almost like a downstream afterthought to the consumer hype. But Anthropic? They completely inverted that. Every single release, every feature, every tiny update they shipped was obsessively enterprise-led from day one. Anthropic basically ran a masterclass here with 3 key moves. First up, trust and predictability. Big companies buying AI don't care about who ships the fastest. They care about who ships the safest. They want 0 surprises. Second, massively long context windows. Anthropic rolled out those massive 200K and then 1 million token windows. That was a game changer. It let companies ingest whole code bases or giant legal contracts in one go, basically eliminating the headache of building complex RAG pipelines. And third, that relentless enterprise-first positioning just compounded over corporate renewal cycles. So honestly, OpenAI's 27% floor isn't really a mystery. It's just the natural result of a focused 3-year strategy paying off for the other guy. Part 2, Google's massive counterattack. But hey, the game isn't over. The landscape literally just shifted again. Google looked at the exact same market data we just talked about, did the math, and realized, no way are we sitting on the sidelines of 15%. So enter April 2026, and Google makes a massive bet, $750 million. That is the massive partner fund Google just announced to basically buy back market share through sheer, overwhelming distribution power. Think about it. Google has the Gemini models, they have the TPU infrastructure, and they have massive distribution through Workspace and Cloud. What they were missing was enterprise lock-in. And this giant check, that's their brute force attempt to fix it in a single quarter. So where's all that money going? Google is structurally deploying this cash across 4 super aggressive levers. They are airdropping forward-facing engineers into a massive ecosystem of 120,000 system integrators. They're literally subsidizing enterprise proofs of concept to kill the switching costs of moving away from OpenAI or Anthropic. Plus, they're flooding the labor market with Google-trained talent via massive certification programs. Oh, and they are locking down huge anchor wins, like that highly visible partnership with Merck. Basically, Google is betting the house that their raw distribution muscle can smash Anthropic's 5-year head start. Part 3, the agent sprawl problem. Here's the real kicker, though. We have to understand what Google is actually selling with all this money, and it brings us to a massive paradigm shift. Google completely rebranded Vertex AI into the Gemini Enterprise Agent platform. Now, that's not a new product. It's a totally new framing. The war is no longer about who has the absolute smartest underlying model. That era is over. It's entirely about who gives you the central control plane to govern your sprawling AI ecosystem. By the end of this year, 40% of business apps are going to be using autonomous AI agents, and somebody has to manage that chaos. I mean, think about this number for a second. 47 distinct agents.
Actually, wait, that's just the median. A lot of enterprises are running way more than that. Take Adobe's new CX Enterprise Coworker, for example. You've got a single marketing team juggling a sales agent, a content generator, an analytics agent, an approval agent. And every single one of those has its own permissions, its own audit trails, its own potential points of failure. If you listen closely, you can literally hear IT departments weeping right now. It is an absolute nightmare for IT to track and secure all this. Companies with over 10 agents are openly admitting they don't even know which agents have access to which production systems.
There is a quote floating around that absolutely nails why Google is spending so aggressively. It goes, "Building agents is now the easy part. The hard part is governing the agents you already built. The platform vendor that solves the governance question first wins enterprise for 10 years. And that hits the nail right on the head. The underlying AI model, the actual brain, is rapidly becoming an interchangeable commodity. Sometimes there's only a tiny single-digit benchmark difference compared to open-weight stuff. And because the intelligence is commoditizing, platform governance, that is the only true defensible moat left in the game."
Part 4. Countermoves and the threat.
So, with Google completely flipping the script from just capability to governance and distribution, how do the current leaders fight back? Look, Anthropic might have 40% right now, but they are definitely feeling the heat. To survive, they have to deploy 3 specific defenses before Google's war chest fully hits the market. First, expect some really aggressive enterprise discounting wrapped up in a massive partner program. Second, vertical specialization. They're going to build custom, highly tuned products for strict fields like healthcare and legal, where those giant context windows shine. And third, what we call sovereignty layering, basically building specialized data regions in places like Singapore or Frankfurt to keep local regulators happy.
And what about OpenAI? I mean, they're definitely not out of the fight, but getting out of this rut requires some massive structural changes. Sure, they can roll out price cuts, that's highly probable. They can try squeezing more out of their Microsoft partnership, but their absolute best, cleanest play to break out of that 27% floor, they need a massive earth-shattering capability leap with GPT-6 this summer. If GPT-6 is just, an incremental bump, OpenAI is going to be structurally disadvantaged in the enterprise forever. They need a leap so massive it forces CIOs to just completely ignore Google's governance tools and Anthropic's safety record.
Part 5. What AI leaders must do.
So, what's the game plan for you? If you're running a team, managing a budget, or building out systems, what do you actually do with this information this quarter? Well, CIOs negotiate hard. Every frontier lab is fighting for its life, which means pricing is more flexible than it has ever been. CTOs architect for portability. The lab you bet on today is probably not the one you'll be running in 24 months. Invest heavily in abstraction layers, stuff like Light LLM or Open Router, so you can easily swap out AI models when you need to. CHROs, keep an eye on those certification markets, because top talent is going to follow whoever wins the agent governance war. And for corporate boards, it's time to mandate a quarterly review specifically tracking model concentration risk.
I want to leave you with a critical question to chew on as you architect the future of your enterprise. The days of just picking the smartest chatbot demo are totally over. The underlying models are commoditizing fast, and the real battle is all about the platform. So take a hard look at your tech stack today. If your enterprise AI runs more than 70% on a single lab, are you truly in control, or are you just renting a commodity? If you're heavily concentrated right now, who really holds the pricing power? You or them? Thanks for diving into this explainer with me, and definitely keep questioning how you're building out your future.